Recently, California's Governor Newsom signed an executive order mandating that all new cars sold in California by 2035 need to be zero emission. And that got me thinking, what if the deadline was like, I don't know, January 1st, 2022? What would be the options then? Well, I've got a list of some new, exciting, and pretty affordable EVs that are coming up in the next few years. And look, I want to keep this to new vehicles, so there's no Tesla Model 3, there's no Model S, there's no Chevy Bolt, Nissan Leaf, nothing like that. We're just talking new vehicles. And first up is the hotly anticipated Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now, look, I'm not here to debate whether or not a crossover should have the Mustang name. That's the subject for a whole other video, but you cannot deny the chops of this vehicle. Now, the base Mach-E only has 266 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque out of that rear-wheel drive model. But the GT trim goes big. I'm talking about an estimated 459 horsepower and 612 pound-feet of torque. Drivers can get a 75.7 kilowatt-hour battery or a 98.8 kilowatt-hour battery, the latter of which is good for up to 300 miles of range. The Mustang Mach-E is due later this year at a starting price of right around $43,000. If a work truck is what you're looking for, look no further than the LORDSTOWN Endurance. Now, we don't know a lot about this truck. In fact, we don't even have a lot of footage, but we do know that the 4 in-wheel hub motors should produce right around 600 horsepower and be good for 250 miles of range. No word on battery size, but LORDSTOWN says that the vehicle can get 95% of a charge in just 30 minutes when it's on a DC fast charger. And since it's a work truck, drivers can power all of their tools at the job site right there out of the truck. The Endurance should be available later this year, starting at $52,500 smackaroos. If you dig the looks of the Volvo XC40, the company's got an EV version on its way, dubbed the Recharge. 2 electric motors push out 402 horsepower and 487 pound-feet of torque, and a 78 kilowatt-hour battery is good for right around 200 miles. On fast charging, Volvo says the Recharge should get about 80% of its battery back in about 40 minutes. We should see the Recharge later this year at a starting price of about $50,000, but that is after any incentives. Volkswagen is coming to bat with the ID.4 electric crossover. Available in the first quarter of 2021, the rear-wheel drive version will put out 201 horsepower and 228 pound-feet of torque. An 82 kilowatt-hour battery is good for 250 miles of range, and if that's not enough for you, an all-wheel drive version will be available later with 302 horsepower, but Volkswagen didn't say anything about the torque specs. The ID.4 can go from 5% of a battery all the way up to 80% of charge in 38 minutes on a fast charger, and we should see the rear-wheel drive version for right around $40,000. The swanky-looking M-BYTE from BYTON should be here in 2021, and you guys, it's actually kind of affordable. The company says it should start right around $45,000. Now, the company's got a lot of press for its giant interior 48-inch screen, but it also has a 72 kilowatt-hour battery, which is good for about 224 miles of range. However, that is measured on the WLTP cycle, which is pretty liberal. Once we test it over here on the EPA, that range will go down just a little bit. An all-wheel drive version ups the battery to 95 kilowatt hours and 270 miles of range, but again, that is on that WLTP cycle. The little Nissan ARIYA is a little tiny bean of a crossover at 215 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque, with go-go juice being stored in a 63 kilowatt-hour battery. A larger 87 kilowatt-hour battery should store enough power for 389 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque, as well as giving drivers a range of right around 300 miles. Nissan didn't say anything about charge times, but it can accept a charge of up to 130 kilowatts, so it should be pretty darn quick. After debuting in Japan, the ARIYA should make it to the US shores at a starting price of right around $40,000. If getting out in the wild is your jam, you should look no further than Rivian with the R1T pickup truck and the R1S SUV. Now, both vehicles will have the option of a 105 kilowatt-hour, 135 kilowatt-hour, or a 180 kilowatt-hour battery, and that gives you a range of 230, 300, or 400 miles respectively. Both can get a max of 750 horsepower and 829 pound-feet of torque out of its 4 in-wheel hub motors, and they look to be able to conquer the outdoors with a max of 14 inches of ground clearance and water-fording capabilities of 42.7 inches. Now, Rivian hasn't given any official charging time numbers, but it can charge at speeds of up to 160 kilowatts. So, like the ARIYA, should be going lickety-split. We'll see the R1T first in 2021 at a price of right around $69,000, with the R1S following later at a price of $72,500 smackaroos. And yes, I will talk about the Tesla Cybertruck because it's supposed to be available in 2021, but only in the dual and tri-motor versions. The dual motor will start at $49,900, and while we don't have the battery size, Tesla says it will be able to go 300 miles on a charge. The tri-motor, that's going to be about $69,900, and Tesla says it will go 500 miles on a charge. Now, Tesla does not give horsepower or torque ratings, but it did say that the tri-motor will go from 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, so it's probably got a lot of torque, I would say. Now, Tesla has not been great in the past at meeting its production deadlines, so let's hope that they've got some of those bumps ironed out with this very popular Cybertruck. Now, before you at me, I didn't include the GMC Hummer in here because, yeah, we've seen it crab walk and it's pretty dope, but we don't know how much it's gonna cost. We just know it's supposed to come online in the fall of 2021. I also didn't include the Mercedes-Benz EQ line of electric vehicles because, again, we don't know the cost, and we don't know the cost of the Audi Q4 e-tron. All right, that's 8 electric vehicles that will be available by the end of 2021, and I want to go on the record here that I really support Newsom in pushing EVs. I mean, I'm a total hippie. You guys, I'm in a yurt. But we really have to work on the infrastructure. I mean, right now, I can't even run the air conditioning without having rolling blackouts throughout my neighborhood. So Newsom, please, put some money into the infrastructure. It's the only way we get a chance in hell of letting all of these EVs work. All right, if you had to pick an EV that would be available in the next couple years, which would it be? I think I'm going for the Rivian or possibly the BYTON because that screen is pretty cool. Let me know in the comments, and as always, be sure to like and subscribe right here on Roadshow.